Hey, this is Andy from Long Island Mopars, bringing you 5 more cool cars from my youth that I never owned. All right, first up in order of model year, this 1973 Plymouth Scamp. This belonged to my friend that lived next door. His stepfather knew that we were a Mopar family. He came to my dad one day and said, "What car should my stepson get?" Anything with a slant six for economy. So, of course, my buddy went out and bought a 318 73 Scamp. And this car was a lot of fun. White, black top, black gut, 318 two barrel. It had the typical quarter panel rot. So my buddy wound up patching it with sheet metal panels that he pop riveted over the rear quarters and then spray bombed it white. The problem there was that it rotted from behind, and eventually those panels started flapping in the breeze when he was driving, so he ripped them off. Of course, there was nothing behind it. He wound up mixing up a gallon of Bondo and throwing it into the holes. You can imagine how that looked. He wound up selling the car for cheap. All right, next up, 1974. This was my Uncle George's Monaco. 400, 4 barrel, all blue inside and out, no rot. He bought it used, but the thing was mint. And the pictures that you see here were in the Poconos, where my aunt and uncle had a trailer, and on weekends you could go out there if you wanted to and hang out. They were there almost every weekend. What a nice car. I wish I owned it. It was the Bluesmobile before I got into the the Blues Brothers. All right, next up, we're going to move into 1977. My cousin Jimmy's 77 Cutlass Supreme. Jimmy had a bunch of cars through the years. He picked this thing up in Reedman, Pennsylvania. White, burgundy velour interior, burgundy Landau top. He had the windows tinted black. It was a sharp car. 354 barrel, floated along on the road, handled nice, decent power for what it was. And back in this era, which has got to be the mid 80s, you had all your crap hanging from the rearview mirror. The car smelled like a bottle of cologne, but it was very cool. And like all of these things, the rear bumper rotted and fell right off the darn thing. All right, the next 2 cars are going to be Ford Motor Company. I'm not sure if they were 1977 or 1978s, but needless to say, this one, I believe, was a 78 Mercury Marquis that belonged to our neighbor. 400, 4 barrel. It's a 2 door. It had skirts on it, but eventually they came off and never went back on. Velour interior was all gray. The whole car was battleship gray. It just floated down the road, and when he put his foot in it, it would move. Eventually developed a problem where it overheated, and this last picture of it sitting in the driveway, got the cat on it. It sat for a long time because he cooked the engine, and he wound up selling it for like $100. All right, and last up is the 1977 or 78 Thunderbird that my cousin George owned. He bought this car used. This picture is taken sometime in the early 1980s. 351 2 barrel. He added the wire wheels. He tinted the glass. Other than that, bone stock. Really, really sharp car. Went okay for what it was. Didn't have a whole lot of power. At least I didn't think so. Uh, but it wasn't meant to. He wound up giving it to his mom my aunt in 1988 when he bought a brand new Thunderbird LX 5 liter, and that was a really nice car. She drove this thing for a number of years. At that point, the wires were off it. It was just the chrome deep dish rims. It got banged up. The paint was starting to fade, but it kept going, and eventually got sold and replaced by, if I'm not mistaken, a Nissan Stanza. So once again, thanks for watching and listening to the short tale of some cars from my youth that I never owned but have fond memories of. If you like the video, throw it a thumbs up and please leave comments. And I'll look to put something else together real soon. Thanks and take care.